Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm Nick McDaniel. He's Myron Mancher. How the heck are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Back in the studio once again to talk about my favorite thing, professional wrestling.
Listen, we just had a feel of it as this is recording session number 2 for the day. And that last one was a big chunk at one time.
Yeah.
By the way, you know a little secret, Myron?
What's that?
The show we recorded is only available on Patreon. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod. That's right. We had recorded the Georgia Wrestling Spotlight right before we jumped into this one. And again, that is only available. It is for free. We don't even charge you for that show, but it's only on the Patreon page there. Obviously, the show notes at the $1 level, the $5, you get the weekly shows. You know, at the $10 level, you get the digital copies of the Tapped Out collectibles exclusive to our Patreon members.
Yep.
And, of course, the $25, you get the physical copy of the 8x10s, or the 8.5x11, sorry, got my dimensions correct. And they will get those should be going out next week. I'm creating them this week. Going to get them autographed over the weekend, hopefully. Cross my fingers. And get those all signed, sealed, and delivered and shipped out hopefully Monday or Tuesday, give or take maybe. That's the plan as of right now, man.
That's a good plan.
By the way, remember, it was 2 this month. 2 of them.
Ooh.
If you put the math together, Myron, don't say anything, but you can kind of figure out who the 2 are. If I'm getting them both signed this weekend, you can figure it out who those 2 people are. So if you're a regular listener, you could probably figure it out. Just saying. That's all I'm going to say. But hey, man, look, it's a big week. We did something special. I put a post out about it over the weekend. We wanted to do a mailbag episode, just get caught up. We hadn't done one in a while. But before we get into those questions, I do want to thank everybody for sending them in. There's a lot of questions.
Full bag.
So my comment was to you was, hey, we're either going to do one of 2 things. We're probably not going to get through all these questions. So we're either going to maybe do a bonus episode, or we may just save what we don't get to next week and go ahead and do a part 2 of it. So we'll see how far we get on. We're going to try to keep it right at the hour or so. But before we get started into the mailbag, let's obviously talk about all of the hottest news of the week. Let's talk about Money in the Bank first. Seems to be the hottest, whatever. And we're talking a little bit of the Raw follow-up. But, Myron, I remember last week somebody said everybody was angry about R-Truth being fired. And I was like, well, what if he shows up on, Money in the Bank, and there he is. Money in the Bank, Ron Killings returns, not R-Truth.
Well, the crazy, I don't know what they're calling him on the WWE website yet, but the craziest thing, Mariah May showed up on Tuesday night on NXT, former AEW Women's Champion, and it gets buried in the R-Truthness. Okay, once they found out they were releasing R-Truth, there was that was Saturday or Sunday we found out, nothing could have got out of WWE News besides this. Mm-hmm. It was the biggest thing on every wrestling fan. It was the chant at every TV show we watched. Even the Worlds Collide, they were chanting, "We want truth."
Yeah.
Biggest news story of the week, and then the hair cutting. Put some respect on his name.
So he is going by Ron Killings. There is a shirt out with Ron Killings on it. So clearly that's what he's going to go by. He shows up at. By the way, I want to throw in some notes before we get into the hair cutting stuff. Did you see a little side note there that his return at Money in the Bank had 45 million impressions in 24 hours. And here's why I think this is a key thing here. We could sidebar forever, so we're going to try to keep this as condensed as possible, but I think it deserves a little bit of a conversation. Some people are like, oh, it was all a storyline. I don't believe it.
I don't either. I don't either. I heard that Dick Conn himself reached out to R-Truth 72 hours before the thing. So I don't know, man. I'm still in shock. We may not know anything yet. I mean, when are we going to get our next update on this?
Do you think if it was a storyline, he was reaching out to indie promotions and talking about bookings? Like, if he was signed, he can't do that. Now, I get it. Oh, if it's storyline, they could have let him do it, wink, wink, or whatever part of the story. I think if Nick Khan realized the pushback, the feedback, all of the social media stuff that was going on about him being released, not re-signed. Let's get the verbiage correct, apparently. I think they realized they messed up, and they re-signed him. Because here's, by the way, do you know why? They saw money to be made.
Yeah, oh, definitely. That's why they did it. The attention, the money to be made. And this is going to be crazy. I just don't know where this is going to lead in the future with.
I'll give you two things and then see what you think. Number one, it's going to lead to the number one selling shirt of the week.
Yes.
It's going to be the Ron Killing shirt. It's my prediction. Could be wrong. Don't think I'm going to be. Number two, here's the challenge. Myron, brace yourself. In 3 months, do people give a shit?
Well, they got what they want.
Correct.
And they'll move on to something else.
Could be. And I want to know. I want to see in 3 months all these people that were banging the drum. By the way, I prefer Ron Killings. Don't get me wrong. I prefer him being in WWE. I'm a guy that says yes, he has a place there. He does 100%. But at the same time, all those people that were there, he needs to stay. You need to keep him in the top 10 selling shirts, top 10 selling merch. People say, because he was let go because they didn't see the value of the ROI, those three dreaded letters.
Worst wrestling federation ever.
It's the worst, man. So that's my take, folks. I mean, if in 3 months nobody cares anymore, don't be shocked if they were like, oh, he signed a new deal. Yeah, what if they signed him to a 6-month run as Ron Killings?
No. And what if they fit next time somebody gets released? What if
they do? They already do. That's the problem. Now I get it. There was more love and more, affection for Ron Killings, R-Truth, whatever. But I think a smart move by Ron Killings per Mike Johnson, I'm only going based on reports, that part of the agreement for him to come back was he wanted to be Ron Killings because he's smart enough to know now he's going to create equity in the name of Ron Killings. So when he's released again, he's got more name value out on the indies or wherever else.
He couldn't call himself R-Truth.
Correct. So smart man. But then,
did anything else happen at Money in the Bank?
Naomi wins. She is your Miss Money in the Bank. Seth Rollins is your Men's Money in the Bank. A lot of people were disappointed. We'll kind of speed it up a little bit. But what are your thoughts on Seth? I think it's a mistake.
I didn't see that really happening. But then again, when you get all the interference, you see where it's coming from. I would have been happier had it been on somebody else. But Seth is the storyline guy. You're going to put the belt on him. You need to get the tag team belts on whatever you call his henchmen. His henchmen need a name, Paul. You got to get those guys like a team name and get a tag team belt on them. That's where they want to put their money. Will Seth Rollins make them enough money to make it worthwhile, though?
Here's hot take. We've discussed this in the past. I always think Seth Rollins is a 1B player. I don't think he's a 1A player.
Well, maybe Heyman will push him over that line. So
super talented. Not saying he's not good in the ring, but we'll get into. There's a question later that we'll get into that. Share my thoughts on what that actually means in wrestling these days. Of course, by the way, Becky Lynch, his wife, is the new Women's Intercontinental Championship.
Good solid match.
Good match.
Solid match.
But of course, we obviously see where that was leading. Hey, Myron's criticisms have led to them taking the belt off the feathered woman, Lyra Valkyrie, and because we want Becky versus Bayley.
Oh God, yeah. Bayley came out last night. Man, it's so good to see her back. I think Bayley overall is the most important woman in the W women's division roster. I think she is the workhorse. She's super popular. There's not a lot of controversy involved with her.
She's a good cog in the wheel.
Yes, they have to build. They've built.
As CM Punk pointed out, they're all just cogs in the wheel. That's all they are. They're just cogs in the machine. That's all they are.
Mm-hmm.
Worlds Collide. We kind of were messaging back and forth. I'm going to go in reverse order. You got to call this thing a success, right?
I don't see how you can't call it a success. You look at the numbers, and the numbers are insane. When we were watching, okay, the Hispanic or Espanol WBE YouTube channel had 1 million subscribers, 1,000,001 subscribers, 1,000,000.1. Over 250,000 people were watching. That's a quarter of your subscriber audience was watching live. Okay, that's nuts. Now it's 2 million people that have watched it as of just prior to recording. And you only had 1 million subscribers? That's nuts. And then we get over to the WBE side, and it's their most viewed live event in history on YouTube. How can that not be just a groundbreaking thing?
To put it in perspective, super 764,389,000 live concurrent views at its peak. Like, that was the top. I jokingly told somebody, so that is AEW/NXT numbers.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. It was a one-off, and we're going to see how it sustains itself. That's pretty cool. But overall, 4.1 million viewers watched it in the first 24 hours. 32 million social views in the first 24 hours. And by the way, hashtag Worlds Collide was the #1 trending topic worldwide at the time.
When you look at it, and it's not just a regular wrestling show. It was a groundbreaking wrestling show where I don't know what the audience for Lucha was in Mexico. I don't know how they watch Lucha on TV in Mexico. I don't know what they draw. So this was evidence it can draw. I mean, we got Green Danhausen out of this deal.
So, Mr. Iguana, here I'm fully saying I was listening to the podcast. Jeff and Conrad were having a conversation about it, and it was super intriguing. They asked the question of, how soon is it before he's in NXT? Like, everybody was screaming about the merch opportunities for kids. And by the way, you ready for this kicker? I was not aware. Jeff pointed out, because Jeff worked there, obviously, in AAA. He's bilingual.
He's bilingual, and apparently, from everything I read, he did everything he could to do the promotion and whatever they wanted him to do while he was there. He's a lot better than that damn doll Alexa Bliss walks around with. That iguana is a puppet, and I don't normally like puppets, but that's a puppet, and the puppet actually took some bumps, and it was fun to watch. Yeah. I'm usually not Mr. Comedy Wrestling, but it's fun.
I think they did a really good job. Worlds Collide. There were a couple other cool things that Jeff pointed out of, like, to make it different. Dan, did you notice? Most people won't even notice. Jeff goes, "Did you notice the lights in the arena were down? When you look at SmackDown and Raw, everything's brightly lit up. You can see all of the crowd or whatever." He was like, "Not at Worlds Collide. It was dark. It was like dark. You could see like the first row, but the upper levels were all darkened out." He goes, "That's more like a Lucha show."
So they're paying attention to what Lucha does and how they do it. Now, Conan on commentary. Conan might be a little rough on commentary for American audiences, but I can't see a thing they did wrong.
Yeah. So super successful. Hopefully, we'll see more AAA, AAA, as they say. But look, I will tell you what we're going to see more of, and that is WrestleMania in Vegas. It's one of the things we wanted to discuss before we got to the mailbag. It's official now. We had a whole topic about it last week, but mystery's over. They're heading back to Vegas. It's around the same time, but Easter's earlier. So
Easter's earlier in the month, so it's not on Easter, but it's the same area of the month. Triple H on top of a building. I love grandiose presentations about stuff like that. That's a lot bigger deal than most stuff. That was so cool.
How big does that money have to be for them to do what they did? Like, is it double what they pulled off last year, or is it 50% increase? What do you? Because they gave them
probably
$5 million cash, four plus. It was almost $10 million.
Yeah.
But four something in credits or whatever. Do we think do they get close to? Is it's somewhere between 15 and 20, right? It's got to be.
I would think so. 12 at the minimum, but it's bound to have grown.
Because you literally left a city, like you had basically decided and you left.
And you said something about it on live television and stuff. So
you had The Rock stand in a ring and say that like that's where they were going. Like, yes, that's a huge thing. So, I was going to get in a little bit about these other countries, like the site fees and all that with these other countries or whatever. There, more to come, and we get into the questions, obviously. But I think more and more, I wanted to ask you, this is what I wanted to ask you. Do we start seeing the same cities winning because they're just willing to throw more money?
Very well could be. Las Vegas is clearly set on becoming a sports and entertainment capital. They've got themselves in a position, and they're going to throw plenty of money. Could New Orleans throw that much money at it? Could New Orleans provide them everything they were wanting?
Like you brought up it last week. I don't know that Atlanta ever sees a WrestleMania again because I don't think Atlanta doesn't strike me as a city that does that.
Atlanta's got enough. Atlanta's a hub already.
Yeah, but you're seeing towns like I think New York's going to get it. I think Philly's going to get them. We clearly see New Jersey, LA. I think, but what my concern is, I think we just start seeing the same 4 or 5, maybe max 6 cities winning it because they're just willing to throw that check down every time.
See, the location is not as important for me as somebody who's just going to watch it on television anyway, but it's important to the success of what they're doing, and they were very successful last year.
My concern for them is and maybe I'm totally off base. If I am, tappedoutpod@gmail.com, tell me I'm an idiot. That's fine. The problem is there is a massive base of fans that comes internationally as well, and it is to like, hey, we can see New York, we can see Vegas, we can see LA. But it's like if that pool of cities, like, what is the percentage of people that go? I mean, they live in Australia. They just flew into Vegas last year to see it. What's the percentage of people that go like, yeah, I'm not going back to Vegas again this year?
It might be people who don't live here, but Americans apparently are wanting to go to Vegas all the time. I mean,
Vegas is a fun town.
Yeah, I've never been. My brother's been 6 times this year. I've never been. Calendar year. Butthole.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Take me with you.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll see. I'm curious to see those numbers, but I'm also curious to see, man. Let's go ahead. We're almost 20 minutes in, and let's go to the mailbag.
Open my bag here. So we got a good question here. Our first question is Brandon from Charlotte, North Carolina. At what time does a part-time champion hurt more than it help, even if it's somebody like John Cena? I don't think it hurts at all.
I agree. By the way, the only pushback I want to have, I don't think John Cena's probably a part-timer right now, is he?
He's got 18 dates left, and that's all.
Hold on, though. My argument is he's been on TV lately more than most.
Yeah.
If you told me, if you told me John or Roman Reigns is a part-timer, I would go,
yeah,
yes, he is.
But the thing is, it's not seeing the belt every night, not having the belt defended every night, to me, it makes it more special. You got to have somebody who's worthy of having a belt and being a part-time champion. You couldn't put it on Jey Uso and let him be. I mean, not that Jey Uso's not worried, but he couldn't be a part-time champion. He'd have to be there every day. That's how they took the belt off of him. He was too tired from being there every day.
Could be. Maybe I think it creates a novelty too, prestige levels. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Maybe when you get the belt, you only have to work part-time. It doesn't hurt them because they went into this whole situation with Roman Reigns having the title for so long and never defending it, hardly.
So.
Okay. Next question. Eli from Kansas City, Missouri. Is Money in the Bank still a star-making tool, or has it become another gimmick match? What do you say, Nick?
Could be, can be, and has been. But here's your problem. If Seth Rollins is the star winning it, it ain't making Seth Rollins a star. So I don't think at that point the men's was more of a gimmick match with him winning.
The men's match got over Jacob Fatu as maybe being a good guy. That was the most important thing happened in that match. He wasn't even in the match. The women's match introduced us to Julia, Roxanne Perez, and Stephanie Vaquer as legitimate big match participants. Okay? Naomi maybe needed a little bit more, what's the way I'm putting it? She needed a little bit more shine to give her that Money in the Bank. She was already a star. It probably elevates her, and she's going to do more with it and help her character from being just somebody who hits people in the back room. Her, Roxanne Perez, Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, I think it helps them more than, I mean, maybe it helped the three of them more than it helped Naomi. I don't know, but when you feature people in there, it's like introducing them to a big match. And I have a feeling they're going to do something with that with King and Queen of the Ring. They're going to put these new people in positions where they get to shine.
Which goes back to my point of Seth Rollins probably shouldn't have even been in the match. If you're trying to make the next person, then you don't have the person you claim is the guy already.
Because it did a lot more good for Jacob Fatu to do that. No, I hate you solo than it did Seth winning. Okay. Seth was already over. And a fan from that town, Las Vegas, we were talking about, Troy from Las Vegas, says, if Logan Paul wins a world title, what does that say about the WWE's priorities in 2025?
They're smart. I mean, look, I think after that match on Money in the Bank, I think it was maybe Wade Barrett on commentary that said that people need to stop saying he's, an influencer playing wrestler. Like he's there a pretty decent amount. He's putting in the work and he's putting on some good matches. And like, what are we doing here? Like
grabbing the drone was one of the most epic visuals I've ever seen. And then taking that bump, holding the drone, Nick, man, that was awesome. And he did that moonsault or whatever they call it onto the table. Engagement is the important new word, I think, in wrestling booking.
Logan Paul has more social media followers than the WWE does. That's enough said. I mean, I get it, folks. I mean, if he was terrible in the ring, I would understand people's arguments. I just don't think he's terrible in the ring, so I don't understand the arguments. Maybe that's probably a Nick problem. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Send your hate mail. That's fine. I just think he is. I think he's a really good wrestler.
I agree 100%. But Caleb from Seattle, Washington wants to know, does the alliance of Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman seem to be working?
Let's add Mateo in there, but yeah, I mean...
No, not Mateo.
I'm sorry, Bronson Reed, sorry.
Another husky young man.
Yeah, exactly. My hot take, I don't think so. This whole story is set up for me at one point is when is Braun Breaker turning on Seth Rollins?
Yes. He is the guy right behind Seth. I don't see it happening with the other guy. I just saw they offered an NIL to Scott Steiner's son too. So I mean, it's apparently the Steiner thing's working out for him so far. I don't understand, Nick. I don't understand why this is stalling. They have to put the tag team belts on those two to make it better.
Wouldn't hurt necessarily, or you give them one of the IC or the or something like the US belt, whatever. I tell you why it's not working. I still don't believe. It's the second time I've said this on the show. I still don't see Seth Rollins as the top guy. I always see him as a 1B player, maybe even a 2.
But he's a good chasing heel, though. He might be really good with the Money in the Bank chasing.
he may be. You know who he should be? He should be the guy that makes your Intercontinental title matter. Not your world champion. But
He'd be a great holder for that.
Yeah.
Whew. Our friend Derek from Richmond, Virginia asked, could AEW benefit from focusing less on competing with WWE and more on separating its own identity?
We touched on this last week, I think it was. Maybe the week before. I can't remember. It blurs together. The last couple of weeks we discussed this about like maybe they should focus more on TNA than WWE. So I guess that's probably where this question came from. But yes, I think they should you should almost pretend that the WWE doesn't exist.
They've got a loyal fan base, a very loyal, rabid fan base. Cater to them. Don't cater to me. I'm outside your demographic. You don't need to be catering to me. You need to be catering to the people who are paying your bills, buying your merch, and buying tickets.
I would be catering on to somebody to try to get new ones, not just to the ones we have. But
yeah.
But that's a huge chunk of it. But yes, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, so I think that answer is easy as yes. I think they should, and I think they're probably getting better at it based on the success they had of late, storyline wise, and they've done some good stuff. So hopefully that's where their focus is, and I just would naturally assume, that it is.
But then our friend Jason from Wichita, Kansas, sent in a question that says, if TNA continues to grow, is there room for 3 major promotions to thrive in the U.S. market? Well, TNA is getting easier to watch. It's a good program. Could they catch up?
If TNA had I don't want to say a viable like TV outlet, yes. I think they could. I think the market. The answer to the question is yes. I think there could be 3 major promotions, because when wrestling gets hot, TNA and AEW, by the way, should be thankful that AEW or that WWE is hot like it is right now.
Yes,
because everybody knows that like when it gets hot, like pop culture blending back into, everybody's starting to like pop culture's absorbing it, and it's just becoming a lot more casual fans watching, whatever. That helps everybody just because wrestling becomes cool again, not just, WWE or one particular promotion. I know people like to say like, oh, AEW is climbing, WWE starting to slip a little bit. I'm like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if all 3 of them were going up at the same time?
Yeah. I really do think the amount of WWE stars that they've been sending to TNA will, in their affiliation with WWE, makes them a lot more attractive for a TV package and a media
I
rights
agree.
deal.
And I tell you who it also is, by the way, it was funny. I had Bryce Cannon and I had a conversation about this on the Tapped In show about I had a conversation with another wrestler, and I brought it up to him, where the other wrestler told me he thought his best opportunity to make it to WWE was through TNA versus going through the PC, and I thought that was unique. So Bryce and I, we took a little bit of a dive into that conversation, and he was like, it's not even necessarily the partnership that they're doing, not because like, hey, it's my way in because of that. He felt like it was a good way to get like more national exposure, in that kind of thing. And if you're used right, there's, obviously there are more eyes can see you, and there's clearly there are people in WWE watching it for the obvious reasons. So that kind of stuff does matter.
Well, the Performance Center is they're interested in making athletes and then seeing whose personality stays. They're pipelining them through here, testing their athletic ability. Then they get to test them where they can talk and get on TV or fans like them, and they develop their personalities after that. There's not a lot of wrestler development coming in. They want athletes. So I got to agree with you on that one, man. Got to agree. So our next question is for Jordan from Chicago, Illinois. Jordan asks, What does it say about WWE's creative trust in women's wrestling when Becky's heel turn overshadows a mid-card title? The fact that she's a heel overshadows the women's mid-card title?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand the question a little bit when I was
No.
reading it. But I think here's what, and listen, Jordan, if you're like, I'm going to try to maybe make this sense. Do you think they meant like valuing that title? They used the title to elevate her heel turn. Like they used it as a reason for her to be a heel turn. So her heel turn was more important than the title. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
I get that. I get that 100%. But they're more interested in that title right now, I think. Putting it on Becky Lynch, regardless of how she had to get it, is an asset for that title. Lyra Valkyrie, that title had never changed hands.
That is true.
Now she can feud with Bayley for that title.
But
that title is much more prestigious.
I get it, but here would be my only pushback. They already had a reason to feud. Becky's the one who put her out.
Yes, you're 100%
so they didn't
right.
really need the. They didn't need the title to be involved.
Took her WrestleMania spot.
Yeah,
but the title has languished. Make it as hot as you possibly can. You're giving a women's undercard title storyline time by putting your best wrestlers into it.
Now that part I agree with, but putting it on the title on a woman that you for the longest time was the man. She was the. Here's the thing. The reason she's a good heel in the sense of all of the stuff she brags about, she did.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I was, I main evented the first the first women's main event at a WrestleMania. I was the first champion of this. I was like, all that stuff's true. So it kind of makes like, okay, that's a good heel. But everybody sees her as one of the top, if not, you could argue she might be the top woman. She's, her, Rhea, there's going to be a whole lot of people trying to, jockey for that position. So for putting that secondary title on her, it does create, in my opinion, it creates a value for that title.
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, here's a good one. Chris from Albany, New York. Albany, not Albany, as it's in Georgia. Can crossover events like Worlds Collide actually build long-term investments, or are they just cool one-offs?
I think we're going to find out.
I think we're going to find out 100% because it is a really cool one-off, and it shows that WWE is serious about running a AAA style promotion. So, and they got half of it. They split it with a Mexican streaming company, basically, or Latin. I'm sorry, folks, if I'm getting these wrong. I'm not good with terminology about that kind of stuff that I don't watch on wrestling every day. It's a big deal. They're getting a big streaming deal, and we'll see next year at this time. Will we get a Worlds Collide next year? We get a Worlds Collide next month.
I think when I saw that, I took it was, is this a way for them to create value in AAA, to build the exposure, to build the popularity, to get up, to get more in their return of in their investment. All right, look, TKO, that's all they care about, folks. I'm just telling you, it's a tough pill to swallow. One of the worst things that I heard, it was a great take, but it was one of the worst things to hear is, folks, it ain't WWE anymore. It's TKO. Whether we like it or not, that is who they are. It is ROI, and that is it. They were, this person, it was Jeff, by the way. He said, Baron Corbin, the artist formerly known as Baron Corbin, he put out a post about this as well. Jeff reiterated, with all of his faults, with all of his problems, and there's a laundry list of them, Vince McMahon cared about what the fans wanted in the sense of, because he thought he wanted what was best for, now, did he want to make money? Sure. But remember, he was willing to give R-Truth basically like, you got a job as long as I'm here.
Vince also understood how to make money. All the WB, the new TKO WB is concerned about is making money, not knowing how to make money. They just want to make money. And that's...
He also understood, though, at times, there's a value in it. that like keeping somebody that may not be like, hey, we're not making a ton of money off of this person, but the value's there. He also would run, he would do different events, he would do different, a whole laundry list thing. And the thing that scared me the most about Jeff bringing up, he said, this goes back to the Vince comment about buying, the theory of Vince buying back WWE. He said, they're a publicly traded company. It is their obligation to churn and burn to make as much ROI as possible. And when that asset no longer generates the ROI they want, they will sell the asset. That's what companies do.
And wrestling is a passion thing. It's hard for me to see wrestling as corporate because fans are passionate and the people in the back room are passionate. Everywhere I go, when I go in the locker room at shows, the people I see back there are hardcore, passionate wrestling fans. When I go out and sit in the stands, I'm surrounded by hardcore wrestling fans. Isn't it kind of hardcore wrestling fan?
Nick Khan, yes. But when you get above him, I think that's where the problem starts, in my opinion. So we'll see. How did we go there? That wasn't even the question. Yes.
We're opinionated.
Yeah.
For two guys just that just sit and talk on microphones, we're opinionated. Imagine people doing that in 2025. But our good friend Tyler from Fresno, California has asked, is WWE relying too much on nostalgia and part-timers to anchor premium events?
I don't think so.
I don't think so at all. I think if they're using them to accent the PLEs and stuff like that.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know that they. I mean, again, because I made the argument, like John Cena's a part-timer. Is he? Like, what constitutes a full? I mean, there are no house shows.
I would like to see how many appearances a year a full-timer is expected to make.
Right. Like, what makes a full-timer a full-timer?
Yeah.
Like, do they have to do? Because if you're a Raw person, like a Raw wrestler, and you're a SmackDown wrestler, if you're a Raw wrestler, you have 52 Raws that you're supposed to be on, right?
Well, nobody's on all 52.
I'm just saying, I'm going like the max out.
Yeah.
So, and if you were on 13 PLEs, which again, nobody's going to be on all of them, you're at 65. Like, is that a full-timer? Well, John Cena was doing, what, 36 or whatever it was, or at the beginning? So he's over half. And if you started, like you said, talking about guys who aren't on TV, they're not, I mean, Money in the Bank was what, 4 matches?
Yeah.
I mean, think about the number of people that weren't on Money in the Bank. People that aren't going to be on the Night of Champions, or the people that are not going to be on SummerSlam. Like, if you hit 50, if you hit 45, you're probably a full-timer.
I mean, look at LA Knight. How much does he do? I see him all the time, but is he really on every show? And then the PLEs, the thing I like about the PLEs is they'll take a storyline from Raw and SmackDown, and then they'll take a storyline from SmackDown or Raw, but they won't just have everybody. They're not crowding it with every storyline going on at one time like they used to. You're getting a little here, a little there, different payouts, different. I don't know there, Tyler, but I don't think it's hurting. Whatever it is. Jared from Louisville, Kentucky. Very popular place for him and Jim Cornette. Asked me, what would it take to make tag team wrestling truly feel like a main event again? Now, Jared, I thought about this one and looked into this one very hard. So tell me your opinions.
Have real tag teams?
Have real tag teams. Have charisma. The tag teams they've got don't have it. They're not over. New Day is the closest to having an over tag team they have. I love Motor City Machine Guns. I love DIY. I'm tired of seeing them. And they're not really like great talker guys. The Street Profits. the Viking Raiders or whatever
You
they're
don't like
called
the Street
now.
Profits? I'm a big fan of the Street Profits. I do like
No,
them.
they're. I really don't think. I don't think they're that cool. We need a tag division that's got teams like the Road Warriors, teams like Demolition or the Midnight Express, teams that work together, have got chemistry, dedicated tag teams on the main roster. I mean, not main roster, but your higher level stars need to be in tag teams, and there needs to be one tag team belt for both shows.
That part I agree with. I actually think, yes, that would be a huge plus to give it some kind of yeah. I think, and then tag teams can bounce around. By the way, a lot of mine just anyway. Mine's implode the brand.
You can throw a lucha tag team in there or lucha rules. Now that you have AAA,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't want them to do it right now, but Penta and Ray Phoenix are just going to fire it up when they put them back together.
Yes, there's charisma. There's a tag team that's upper level talent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just me. And I love tag team wrestling. Tag team wrestling is probably some of my favorite wrestling because there's a lot more, like, to me, theory and strategy and stuff like that. Okay, so Sean from Dallas, Texas asks, if WrestleMania goes to Saudi Arabia or London, does that change its identity?
London, no. Saudi, yes. And it's not political. We talked. I think did we touch on this?
Yeah, we touched on this. It's an attendance thing. Most people can't go to Saudi Arabia,
or can't, won't, or whatever. But here's the other thing: if they buy it outright, are they going to do like they do their other events, where they don't sell tickets, they just give them away because they outright buy the event? Like, that's what it's going to take for Saudi Arabia to do. They're going to have to write a big enough check. But then okay, if people aren't traveling there, like, what does that do to the Hall of Fame or the Fan Fest thing they do, the Fanatic Fest? I'm like, WWE World, I think is what they call it, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
all of the auxiliary events that they have, if you don't have tourists coming in to do it, like, do you have those things? That's why I said I think it changes.
I can't see indie promotions setting up and down the street.
No, there's that too. Yeah, no, there's none of the indie promotions are going to go. So that's why I said, look, by the way, it ain't going to. If it goes to London, you'll have a lot of the European indies there, but you're not going to have a ton of American promotions packing up and flying over there and, doing it over there, because getting a ring there in general's, a pain. So I've been told. That it's just not worth it. You're just going over there and you're renting the local indie ring, from somebody. And if they're running the show, it's kind of hard to get a ring. So just saying.
Yeah. I just don't think that leaving America is a good long-term decision. If they did, I would go to a very easily accessible place.
I think London, I can see potentially, maybe Paris, maybe one of these markets where they've gone. Yeah, I just don't know. It would be like moving the Super Bowl or something, I think.
Yeah. Well, speaking of someplace WrestleMania was just recently, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania's own Marcus asks, is WWE's obsession with moments hurting its ability to tell long-term stories?
You're asking the wrong guy, because I'm a big moments guy.
I love moments. I love montages, and the stories are great right now too. Okay? Do you think that moment where Gunther beat Jay for the title is not part of a long-term story? If you don't think the R-Truth moment at Money in the Bank, the Jacob Fatu, I hate you thing, those were moments that are storylines. You could look at a breakdown of all the different storylines on Money in the Bank, and they gave most of them moments. So everybody got a moment. That's something to talk about. You get your favorite moment, you got something to talk about, make you interested or watch.
And let me ask you this though. I think though, I don't think they go hand in hand, because I think to get your moments, stories lead to those moments.
Yes.
So I think they kind of go hand in hand. But I do understand what Marcus is probably trying to say. But no, and I'm a moments guy, so that's probably part of it.
Well, here's a tough one about moments. Zach from Omaha, Nebraska. Can LA Knight stay hot long enough to make it to the main event scene, or has the window already passed? This is... See, I'm a huge LA Knight fan.
Tappedoutpod@gmail.com. So am I. Love Eli Drake. Love LA Knight. I do wonder at times if they've waited too long to pull the trigger on LA Knight.
He's got the charisma.
Pause. I'm going to ask you. I'm not the angry guy on the internet that says this, but do you, if it were you, would you have booked LA Knight to win Money in the Bank?
I don't see what he could do with it if he did. I don't see where he was going with it. He doesn't have a story for it. I mean, he'd have to do a really good chase to get it. But I don't know, man. I really am mixed on this one.
You can't see him walking into, because here's the thing: they're doing a really good story with the champions having multiple feuds, multiple issues going on at a time. Imagine John Cena being chased by CM Punk for obvious reasons, their history. But at the same time, LA Knight's always there, like teasing the cash in on him.
He would be really good at that. He would, and he gets a big pop wherever he comes out. LA Knight. Yeah, people chant that. But is it enough? Is he a mid-card champion?
The answer to that question is probably, but that doesn't mean I don't like that answer.
I have to go with you on this one. I hope they haven't, but it may have. Let's get on to Brian from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We got a lot of Pittsburgh fans on our friend list. What can WWE do to make the titles more important because they seem so undervalued?
Less is more. We've all
part-time champions.
Well, no. When I say less is more, I think you need, if you're gonna do a U.S. and Intercontinental belt for both, you only need one world title. Period. Like, you don't need a world champion of any kind on both shows, because then basically the main champion of each show is the U.S. champion and the Intercontinental champion, and they're chasing the champion who's, the overall champion.
Fair.
Tag champions want. Look, if you have listened to us for any length of time, I'm not spitting out anything that I haven't said for 8-9 years at this point. I just think there's too many belts. The women's the same. Get one women's belt, keep the two, one tag belt, blah, blah, blah. I mean, just ad nauseum. I just think there's just too many at this point across the board. That's why they're undervalued, because they're too many. AEW went through the same problem, and I'd be a hypocrite for telling you that I don't think the WWE's doing the exact same thing. And by the way, they're doing the same damn thing down in the minor, because you got an NXT champion, a North American champion, a WWE ID champion, an Evolve champion. I'm like, Jesus, how many belts are we doing?
When I get to the point where I have to sit and think or can't remember who the champions are, it means there's too many champions. If you have to explain it to someone like me who watches it and keeps up with it, or I have to think about it, it's not working.
Yeah.
It should be instantaneous. On to Anthony from Phoenix, Arizona. I hear it's extremely hot out there right now. Does the Worlds Collide PLE essentially kill the Forbidden Door concept? Is any door forbidden?
No, and here's the thing. The Worlds Collide PLE didn't do it. I think it had already been done. I mean, when the second that door is officially nailed shut, in my opinion, as far as like it being the whole concept, it's out. It's scrapped out. When WWE shipped some people to Japan, they started shipping NXT people to TNA. TNA people were showing up on NXT. Joe Hendry wrestled on WrestleMania. I'm like, dude,
DCW.
It's over. It's over.
It is to the point now, it wouldn't surprise me to see a WWE show on more WWE stars show up on top tier indie shows. It's getting to that point. Things I would consider super indie type shows. because it's just gotten does AEW have to change the name of their pay-per-view?
I think so. At one point, that was I was having that conversation. It might have been me. It might have been us. I was trying to remember who I had that conversation with when I said, like, yeah, they probably just need to change the name of that pay-per-view because there is no such thing anymore. The only way you could tell me was if a WWE AEW crossover happened. That's a forbidden door.
Yeah. AEW's worked with CMLL and AAA. There's nothing else that can be done besides that.
I'm gonna let you pick. We got enough time for just a couple more, and let you
just
scroll
a couple
through there.
more. Okay. Here's a good one. Noah from Des Moines, Iowa. Is Money in the Bank contract more exciting when it's been held by a heel?
1,000%. Not even close. I think so, and I only say that because was it me and you having that conversation when I'm like, I think one of the dumbest concepts. I think my personal opinion, a babyface champion looks dumb when their Money in the Bank briefcase holder, John Cena, by the way, this is the ultimate one, and they walk out there and go, I'm cashing in and I'm challenging you at the blocka pay-per-view on this date and time. I'm like, why? Like, you earned it. If I went through a Money in the Bank ladder match and won, I earned my opportunity to do the
I cash in wherever I want to on the biggest anywhere. Shock you, surprise you. Damian Priest, my favorite cash in ever.
When you're laid out and you got no shot of, whatever, that's when I cash in. Like, that's my take. You earned that right by winning that Money in the Bank. And I think you look dumb when you announce to the world, it's the right thing to do. You're a moron. That's my opinion.
Okay. So let's go to another moron. Wes from Detroit, Michigan. Has the WWE Tag Team Champion, WWE Women's Tag Team Division finally hit a wall? No. The answer clearly is no. The WWE Tag Team Women's belt, to me, is the most versatile belt on the entire roster. You can put it on any show. You can do whatever you want to it. It can be a tool for anything you want it to be. And right now, it's on Liv Morgan's waist. And Liv Morgan is one of the greatest women's wrestlers they have. Her with Roxanne Perez the other night in that 4-way match where Roxanne was helping her. Drama, Liv's tag team partner. They can do so much with it. It's a good thing they don't have two, but I think one belt is a tremendous tool.
That'd be the ultimate mistake if they tried to make a second one for the women. But yeah, no, they have to be careful, and I think they need to come up with some women's tag teams. I had this conversation with somebody on the indies, and I was like, listen, there's not a lot of good pure tag teams.
No.
Put the work in and do it. And I think you got a better shot there than just trying to be another guy on the solo.
Remember when All-Star Special was so hot? The grapplers wrestled everywhere. You had tag teams that could show up at other promotions, and people loved them. That's the kind of bit you need. I mean, the tag team champions in a lot of places are just thrown together. And I don't think that works anymore. I think you have to put more thought into tag team wrestling because they used to put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to make this one our last one. Because I think this is going to be some of my most controversial answers ever.
All right.
Shane from Augusta, Georgia. What match hasn't happened yet that could still define this generation of wrestling?
I only see one, and I don't think it's ever going to happen.
What's that?
I feel like we have been completely robbed of The Rock versus Roman Reigns. That's, to me, like right now, something that we haven't seen, that something's built. With Rock's schedule, with Roman's already putting it out there that he was kind of he only had so long left, I don't know that we ever get this match.
Probably not.
And it's terrible because that's – here's the thing. You want the heel turn? The Cody Crybabies, it's their fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you go because that's just my hot take, right?
Okay. This is going to be a hot take. It's a smoking hot take. The match that will define this generation of wrestling would be an intergender match on a WWE show. Because this generation of wrestling is different.
By his rule, I'm like, who is it, though? Is there anybody that you – I mean, now pause. I want you to think carefully. I don't want you to, don't get – this is not a Myron, like, gut reaction answer. You got to be careful. Like, in my opinion, you got to react.
Charlotte.
If you're going to do that, I had another name.
Who?
Camille. I know she's not there. I know she's not signed there. But I'm thinking long term. I don't even know if it's a match she would want to do. But that's who, But go ahead. But let's go with the Charlotte.
Men.
That's your problem.
Seth Rollins. Maybe it's Seth Rollins versus Becky Lynch. And a husband-wife match. But the thing is, I don't like intergender wrestling. Don't get me wrong. But it's all over the indies. It's becoming more popular on the other promotions. And it would define this generation. Like it or not. I don't like it. But that's what I say.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my Rock Roman answer. And I think that's that's my take. I think that's the match that we should have had. We're not going to, and I don't think we're going to get it.
No, you're not going to get to see that.
And that's terrible. I feel like this, and then we'll get out of here. I felt like that entire Bloodline story was leading to that match. And we're just, like, for us not to get it is the only thing that I probably hang back on, that I'm like, that match was supposed to happen and we didn't get it.
And I think The Rock was a prick about the way he handled WrestleMania this year.
Oh, listen, I'm not saying I like the guy or anything like that. I'm just saying I felt like when that Bloodline thing was going, let's take your brain back 3 years ago. Do your best. I'm like, no.
I don't have any memories that early.
As that Bloodline story was playing out live in that moment, you thought that's what was going to happen eventually, right? We all thought we were getting Rock and Roman.
Yes.
And for us not to get it, and by the way, I will backtrack to some degree. Because I just swore that the second Cody won that belt, I just thought the fans were going to turn on him and they were going to get bored with him and they were going to move on. Like, they would not dare, like, be ready for the next guy already. Like, no, they wouldn't do that.
No.
So we missed that match to put the belt on Cody. That's what we missed. Now, I would have argued that match probably should have happened the year before. Like, Cody winning, when the year he won, it shouldn't have been his second shot at it. It should have been his first, because Roman and Rock probably should have been the year before that.
Fair?
Maybe.
Fair.
I don't know. I would love to know that question there. What match hasn't happened yet that could still define this generation? That I would love to know your thoughts. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Send those in. And, of course, if you're a Patreon member at patreon.com/tappedoutpod, messages in there, comment in it if you want to, however you want to communicate that with us. But make sure, obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube, we appreciate that. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel, clicking that little notification bell so you absolutely do not miss a single episode. But I think the heart and soul of us is patreon.com, again, /tappedoutpod, because you get the show early, the bonus content, the digital copies and the physical copies of the, Tapped Out collectibles, the autograph stuff. But I know a lot of people were excited, Myron. We got a lot of feedback in the emails about, hey, wait, you're back on, Apple, and you're back on Spotify, you're back on Amazon Podcasts. Yes, we are. You spoke, we listened, and we're back out there. And, of course, if you're searching for us on any of those platforms, two things. One, if you never unsubscribe to the old feed, you're getting them. It's coming back. Yeah. Two, if you have not and you're looking for them, I promise you, I always trade them. I just try to make your life too simple, maybe to a fault. If you type Tapped Out Pod into the search thing, the podcast will come up because I changed the name of the feed.
Don't give people too many choices. Just don't give
Tapped Out Pod, literally all one word. Bam, it'll come up because I changed the name of the feed just for that reason. Well, man, hey, look, we did not get to all of the questions. We knew we would not. We jumped over some. I don't know that there's enough to actually do a bonus or add them next week. But if you guys still want us to do more, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Keep sending in the questions. And if we have time, we will jump back in. But I'm not sure what we'll do next week because we're completely off with everything that's gone on in the last few weeks, the what if, the top 10 show, all that. We're completely out of cycle, so we'll figure it out and get back on schedule, guys, as soon as possible. You know what I'm saying, man?
Oh, I know what you're saying. I just want to take a nap right now. You are the absolute Iron Man of wrestling podcasting.
Listen, I will chug. If I can knock these out all day long, as Caps, I could do this all day long, man. Caps, right there. Well, man, I know that was a lot to get through, guys. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you doubleheader in today as well. But hey, anything else before we get out of here, man?
No.
What's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.